quite possibly the game of the Rockets season as your Houston Rockets top the Los Angeles Lakers in overtime, 139-130. Jalen Green on absolute fire, ice in his veins, putting away the Lakers in the overtime period. Kevin Porter Jr. flirting with a triple-double. Alperen Sengun and KJ Martin both getting the starting nod in this game. Eric Gordon had LeBron James on skates early in this one. We're going to break it all down for you coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
With the second pick in the 2021 NBA Draft, the Houston Rockets select Jalen Green.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep getting better every day. I'm going to keep perfecting my craft. And every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian, and also host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets. And man, what a game. We were fresh off the heels of quite possibly the game of the year against the, I'm pointing the wrong direction for the YouTube viewers if the camera's not flipped. I don't even know how this works. All right. Quite possibly off the game of the year, the heels of the game of the year against the Memphis Grizzlies. Such an impressive win by this young Rockets team. And then the LA Lakers, in all of their glory, all of their dumpster fiery glory, roll into town, and the Rockets eliminate them 139-130 in overtime, despite the Zebras being on the run. We'll get into that in a little bit. And hey, the reason for this Rockets win, first off, so many players on the Rockets played exceptional games. KJ Martin had a great night. Alperen Sengun with three new career highs across the board for Alp that we're going to get into. Eric Gordon had a stellar night. Kevin Porter Jr. flirting with a triple-double. Jalen Green, career high in points, closing out the Lakers in overtime. Josh Christopher off the bench, impressive. Dennis Schroder back in the lineup. So many great looks from the Rockets players across the roster. But the man that I want to talk about right out of the gate is none other than Jalen Green, who is proving exactly why he is the number 2 overall pick. In the last 10 games that Jalen Green has played, he is averaging 21.2 points per game on just under 50% shooting from the floor and 38.3% from three-point range. Look, for everybody who had their doubts, for everybody who was worried that Jalen Green was a bust, that he wasn't going to pan out, all of this, those people are deservedly eating crow. For anybody that ever has a question about how an NBA rookie is potentially going to pan out, right? Labeling them a bust, all of that, just point to Jalen Green's rookie season, because he has absolutely turned it around since about early February. And again, I just gave you the last 10 games or so and how impressive those have been. But he is on an absolute tear and looking every bit the number 2 overall pick, and looked just like that in this game in particular, because he absolutely closed out the LA Lakers in this game. He had the final 6 points in regulation for the Houston Rockets. Lakers tied up 120, rolling into overtime. Possibly, hey, I said the Zebras were on the run in this one. Jalen Green drove to the basket late against the Lakers, under a minute to go, and got absolutely forearm shoved by Russell Westbrook and got zero love from the officials. He only made it to the free throw line twice in this game, which is just an absolute albatross in and of itself, given the fact that he drives so consistently now and gets to the rim a lot without receiving a whistle or, getting contact, all of that. Despite all of that, 120, game goes to overtime. Rockets D up on the final possession of the game. KJ Martin forces a ridiculously tough shot from Carmelo Anthony off of the kick-out pass from LeBron James, who, hey, LeBron maybe had a Ben Simmons moment here, driving to the rim on the final possession against the Rockets, and then dished it to Carmelo Anthony. It looked like he had a wide open. I was right there in front of the Lakers basket from my media seat, and it looked like LeBron had a wide open layup, and then he just decided to dish it out to Carmelo Anthony, who, again, credit to KJ Martin for making the right read on that final possession, ran out to Carmelo, had, made Melo put the ball on the floor for a quick power dribble, rhythm dribble, whatever. And it made it a tough shot, bounced off back iron, and Lakers goes to overtime. And man, in overtime, Jalen Green continued his impressive tear, scored the first 7 points of the overtime period, giving the Rockets a 7-point lead, 127 to 120, just 13 points in a row for Jalen Green. And then he did have the one possession where he kind of, wasted almost all of the shot clock. And then just at the very end of the possession had to, kick it to Kevin Porter Jr., who had to hoist up an absolute Hail Mary of a three. And KPJ actually hit it, which was wild because then the Rockets were on a 10-0 run. And then Eric Gordon comes down on the very next possession, makes it a 13-0 run. And then in the timeout, the referees decided to wipe away the Kevin Porter Jr. triple. They called it a 24-second shot clock violation, despite the fact that I thought KPJ got it off. A lot of people in the arena thought that Kevin Porter Jr. got it off. But then even further down in overtime, Jalen Green hit the three-pointer that was essentially the dagger to seal the game. Although the real dagger was the Alperen Sengun three to really cap off the overtime period. But this was such an impressive performance from Jalen Green. Despite the fact that he wasn't getting love from the officials, he continued to drive. He continued to show poise. He utilized the mid-range area of his game. That continues to be just an absolute money spot on the floor for him, where he's finally unlocking that third level of his scoring, right? To where he doesn't have to drive all the way into the teeth of the defense. He doesn't have to settle for those three-pointers when the three ball isn't necessarily, falling. And that's making him so much more of a versatile scorer. Again, in this game, 32 points, a new career high for Jalen Green on 13 of 21 shooting. That is ridiculous efficiency. 32 points on 21 shots is great. 4 of 7 from the three-point line, only 2 of 2 from the charity stripe. Again, an absolute travesty that didn't make it to the line at least a few more times in this game, because he absolutely received contact that should have sent him to the free throw line a bit more in this one. But hey, as a rookie, you're going to get a tough rookie whistle. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, also had a block shot, completely turned it on in the fourth quarter and in overtime and carried the Rockets to the win. And this is the Jalen Green where in this hierarchy of the Rockets offense, when Christian Wood isn't out there, we're seeing Jalen Green be a bit more demanding of the basketball. And then not only that, we're seeing Kevin Porter Jr. being willing to step into a secondary or even at times a tertiary role and just be the facilitator. KPJ is more than happy to just be the guy to get Jalen Green the ball, right? He was calling guys, hey, go set a screen, right? Jalen's got the ball. Go set a screen for him. Go get in this spot, kind of organizing the floor so that Jalen could be his most effective in this game. And this is what Rockets fans have wanted all season long, is to see Jalen Green as the true number one option on the floor. And now that Jalen has spent the majority of the season kind of working his way up to this point and has added a bit more to his game and feels, more comfortable now reading and reacting to defenses. Now he doesn't just have that, like early in the season, right? He'd make his 1-2 boom boom move, try to get a defender, try to beat a guy off, off the bounce, and nothing was there. So then he would kind of reload and then be, hesitant and then pass it to the next guy, kick the ball back out. Now we're seeing him, he hits the first couple moves, nothing's there. He reloads, he's back to the offhand, he's going left, right. He's getting, he attacks left first and goes back to the middle of the floor. We're seeing him keep his dribble alive. We're seeing him attack in different ways. We're seeing him pull up for the mid-range jumper when it's available, right? When the defender's giving ground, if he creates separation, which his ability to get his shot off is so impressive at such an early age. It was one of the things that I was most excited about scouting him when I was looking over all of his G League footage, was this guy knows how to already get his shot, right? He's a certified bucket getter. And that's what it looked like in the G League with the amount of separation that he was able to create with that step back. And we hadn't really seen a whole lot of that at the NBA level until recently, when he started adding that mid-range package back into his game. And so we saw it on display tonight. We saw the mid-range buckets coming up clutch late in the fourth quarter. It was, honestly, this is probably the game of the year for Jalen Green. I think this is the game of the year for the Rockets as a whole. Such an exciting game. So many more storylines to talk about from this one. Want to get into Alperen Sengun, his career night, Kevin Porter Jr. flirting with a triple-double, the impact and the benefit of having KJ Martin, Josh Christopher, those guys, all of that. We're going to get into more of that in just a second after a quick message from our friends over at Athletic Greens. So I've started taking Athletic Greens because I haven't exactly been the healthiest guy, unfortunately. I've been told, and so I've come to realize, and basically with Athletic Greens, it's just one scoop, and you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients that supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all those things. I've been taking it for about 2 weeks now, and I already feel it. I feel my energy levels on like a day-to-day basis. I'm actually a bit more energetic. I've kind of been feeling like lethargic and all that stuff. And so Athletic Greens has absolutely helped me with that. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. AG1 is a small micro habit with a big benefit. It's one thing that you can do every single day to benefit your body, right? Your body is an investment, right? And this is something that you can absolutely invest in. It costs you less than $3 a day, and that's just you investing in your health, investing in your body. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take advantage over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And another message from our friends over at BetOnline, because, hey, it's that time of year again as college basketball is finally right around the corner. We've got March Madness, and it is going to be insane. I cannot wait to take a look at all of the top players. Like, this is the time of year where, as a lottery team, you get to kind of go in, and yeah, we've been scouting some of the top talent and all that, but it's going to be great to see them in the biggest moments, on the biggest stage, really seeing them compete and kind of having these moments to evaluate, like, oh, does this guy have the X factor, that kind of thing. It's going to be great to see. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports score, podcasts, and news this season. And hey, it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action available to you. BetOnline, where the game starts. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, appreciate you for making Locked On Rockets your first listen each and every day. For your next listen, go check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, this Rockets win against the LA Lakers, which, hey, like the formerly Houston Rockets LA Lakers, because you look down the entire Lakers roster, and there are so many ex-Rockets on this Lakers team. I'm going to roll down. I think we came up with 6 total pregame. We were counting them all up. Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Avery Bradley, DJ Augustine, Trevor Ariza, and Dwight Howard. Now, Trevor Ariza and Dwight Howard didn't play in this game. Also, shout out to former Rockets legend Mason Jones, who wasn't with the Lakers here in Houston for this game, but that is 7 former Houston Rockets that are on the LA Lakers payroll, which is absolutely hilarious to think about. At one point, I think at the end of the first quarter in this one, I tallied up the numbers in my head. The former Rockets that had played in this game for the Lakers had scored 24, I think, of the first 38 points by the end of the first quarter for LA. And DJ Augustine, as everybody expected, was the high point man off the bench for the Lakers. He had 8 first quarter points. He was absolutely torching the Rockets in this game. He finished with 16 points on 6 of 9 shooting, which not so nice for Uncle DJ coming back into town and trying to light up the Rockets youngsters, who, speaking of the Rockets youngsters in this game was the first time, or I apologize, the second time, according to Elias Sports Bureau, it's the second time in NBA history that a team has had 3 players that are 20 or younger score 20 plus points in the same game. The first trio to have done it was actually Karl Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine, and Andrew Wiggins all the way back in 2016, a road game, Minnesota Timberwolves at the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Josh Christopher, a big night, 21 points off the bench. Jalen Green obviously talked about his huge night, 32 points, new career high for him. And then Alperen Sengun is the guy that I want to talk about next. 21 points, a career high there. 14 rebounds. Oh, man, they stole a rebound. I'm looking at the box score now. He was credited with 15 rebounds at the end of the game, but it looks like they stole one because he had a career high in points. He had a career high at the time in rebounds with 15, which it looks like the NBA took one back from him, unfortunately. So he's down to 14, which ties his previous rebounding career high. And then a career high 40 minutes played for Alperen Sengun, anchoring the 5 spot in the absence of LeBron James. A really impressive performance from Alp. 21 points, 14 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Just an absolutely absurd performance in overall. 9 of 20 shooting. Normally, you'd like to see that shooting number be a little bit better for Alp, a bit more efficient. But Alp was having his way with the Lakers. It didn't matter who they threw on him. He was getting to the rim almost at will. There were a couple fadeaways or push shots that he had that, maybe could have gone in, or had a couple layups kind of roll right off the front of the iron. But there were multiple possessions where Alp just bodied LeBron James. One of the highlights of the game was absolutely Alperen Sengun in the first half, just playing straight bully ball with LeBron James, gets him down low, backs him down straight under the rim, lays the ball up, goes back down on the other end. LeBron tries to drive it in. Alp swats it, just says no, right? And you can already imagine what Alp was saying to LeBron James after that. If anybody's seen that amazing practice footage video of Alp blocking shots in Rockets practice, I'll let you use your imagination for get that stuff out of here. It was incredible to see from Alperen Sengun, a career night from him, absolutely. But then in addition to Alp and his impressive play in this game, Kevin Porter Jr. didn't have the best night offensively, and it's been kind of the case this season, especially with KPJ, where, at times we've seen him struggle to put the ball, in the hoop offensively, and it's kind of impacted the rest of his game, right? Whether he gets, kind of frustrated and he's not getting back on defense, or he's hanging his head a little bit, complaining about foul calls, that kind of thing. And we didn't see that tonight. Even though he was 4 of 13 from the floor, just scored 10 points, KPJ was still so impactful defensively, having to pick up LeBron on switches as a help defender. He was making plays there. But then throughout the rest of the game, I mean, he had 8 rebounds, he had 10 assists, 2 steals, had a block, just 1 turnover for KPJ in this game. He was honestly on the way to a masterclass performance when it came to passing the ball. He had 1 turnover very late in the game where he was trying to thread the needle to KJ Martin in traffic, rolling to the rim. And it was kind of a questionable pass. He's made passes like that before in traffic to KJ Martin. So I kind of know what he was going for, but given the stakes of where the game was at that moment, I thought it was kind of too much of a risky pass at that point. Make the smart pass, make the easy pass. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. But I got to respect the fact that Kevin Porter Jr. found a way to impact this game despite the fact that he wasn't able to put the ball in the basket, right? And that shows the growth from Kevin Porter Jr. because from him, again, we've kind of seen him struggle in this way of not putting the ball in the basket. And over these past couple of games, he's done just that, right? Where he's absolutely found that 6th gear and is filling it up at, from long range, has the hot hand, all of that. And he's kind of gotten away a little bit from creating for his teammates. But in this one, with Jalen Green kind of taking the reins as far as shouldering the scoring load, and so many other guys being able to step up in this game as well offensively, KPJ was looking around. He was like, okay, I can step back. I can step back and just let everybody else get theirs. And he did just that. 10 assists to just 1 turnover is an incredible performance from Kevin Porter Jr. in this game. Again, so impressed up and down the lineup with so many different Rockets in this game. But the last guy under 20 that I've got to talk about here as part of the trifecta from Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, it has to be Josh Christopher. We got to talk about his impact off the bench in this game for this Rockets team. We're going to do that in just a moment after a quick message from our friends over at rockauto.com. Look, with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's basically impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why would you want to endure the often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning like, is your car an LX or an EX? And then you got to wait. Person's got to try and order parts off their computer that they don't even have the parts in stock, right? It never happens. You go there in person, like, we don't carry that. We got to order. It's going to take a couple weeks to get in the store, something like that, right? Just go to rockauto.com. You can save time and money when you use Rock Auto. Why choose to spend up to 30, 50, or even 100% more for the exact same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Again, here's just a quick example for you. A Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store. It's only $216 from rockauto.com. Best of all, Rock Auto is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. The prices are always going to be reliably low for every single customer. They don't price gouge you just because you know how to do work on your own car, right? Just because you're a DIY person doesn't mean you should have to pay more, and you never do have to pay more with Rock Auto. They've got everything you could possibly need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even brand new carpet. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. This is a really important part. When you're checking out, be sure to write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box, so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Be sure to visit rockauto.com. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets. As always, appreciate you making LOR your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On NBA. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. I do the Monday show. I'm also on this week's Thursday show, a nice little hodgepodge episode with myself, Locked On Mavs, Nick Angstad, and Locked On Knicks, Alex Wolf, with a surprise guest appearance from another Locked On host. It'll be a ton of fun. Go check that out, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, rounding third, headed for home in this one. And I got to talk about Josh Christopher here. It has been so great to see Jacob break out of his shooting slump, because he hadn't hit a single three-pointer like post All-Star break. Like, I think even going back a couple games in the All-Star break, basically his slump kind of started the Phoenix game just before the All-Star break. And he had been in kind of a shooting rut, still finding ways to be impactful off the bench, some rebounds here and there, some assists, the hard-nosed defense, all of that. But he just couldn't find a way to put the ball in the bucket. And this game, he checked in, hit his first couple threes, like right off the bat. I mean, he was, 8 quick points off the Rockets bench. And he was that nice little scoring punch for the Rockets. And in a game where the Rockets didn't have Jae'Sean Tate due to a sore ankle, didn't have Christian Wood, didn't have, they did get Dennis Schroder back, but just missing guys who normally play such a heavy load of minutes. Josh Christopher knew that this would be a game where he was going to get a ton of burn. He knew that this was going to be a game where he was going to get a solid 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes or so, and immediately checked in, knew he was hot. And Steven Silas rolled with that. At one point, one of the lineups that Silas was running very briefly, which I thought was a testament to how well Josh Christopher had played. At one point, Steven Silas was running a lineup of Dennis Schroder, Josh Christopher, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, and KJ Martin. KJ Martin getting some small ball 5 minutes in this game. And that kind of shows how Steven Silas trusted Josh Christopher and knew that he was the guy to stick with in this game, because Garrison Matthews, look, I have a lot of love for Gary Bird. He hit a couple shots in this game, but defensively, Gary Bird was kind of toast in this one. Gary Bird was getting worked defensively in this game. He was very much, struggling on that end of the floor, not for lack of trying it. It's not that he was, wasn't hustling. Things just weren't working out for him on that end, whereas Josh was able to match up a little bit better, be a little bit more physical with some of the other Lakers guards out there. And with the Lakers running, LeBron James at the 5 for, the majority of this game, it kind of led to some weird dynamics out there on the floor as far as defensive mismatches and who had to check who and all that stuff. And early in the game, especially when the Rockets had Alperen Sengun on the floor, it felt like they were doing a horrendous job of matching up in transition, because the Rockets started with Alperen Sengun guarding Stanley Johnson, and they started with KJ Martin checking Russell Westbrook, and then Eric Gordon being the primary defender on LeBron James. That was kind of the dynamic to start the game. But every time the Lakers were able to get out in transition, it felt like the Rockets were just lost on who was supposed to pick up who. And it led to a lot of easy buckets for the Lakers, or a lot of, possessions that started in the Lakers' favor because they already had a mismatch or advantage to target in the half court if it, didn't result in a transition bucket, because guys were not matching up quickly in transition with who they were supposed to be on. And LeBron, being LeBron, would, rake down the rebound and immediately take off in transition, knowing that the Rockets had to try and match up with whoever they could in transition. And because Alperen Sengun was the only 5 that played any, meaningful minutes in the game tonight, there were a lot of possessions where he was matched up on the wrong guy, or somebody else was matched up with, the wrong person on a specific play because of the weird lineup, structures that the Rockets had to run. But to Stephen Silas's credit, he ran some small-ish lineups throughout this game that did actually work really well, that were able to get out and run a bit in transition, finding some success there. And at the heart of some of those lineups was KJ Martin, who had an absolute game starting in place of the injured Jae'Sean Tate. KJ Martin walked away his first start of this season. I think he started about 8 games last season in the tail stretch run for the Rockets. He had 17 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 of 12 from the floor, shot 3 of 6. Just such an impressive game from KJ Martin. Had a huge 3 in the overtime period for the Rockets. I mean, it's one of those where you walk away really impressed with KJ Martin's production, and the fact that he has KJ Martin tends to be the guy that I think a lot of Rockets fans kind of forget about, right? Because there's a lot of hype surrounding Jalen and Alp, and Josh Christopher has been a pleasant surprise, and Jae'Sean Tate is the workhorse who's gotten the starting nod, and he's then kind of consistent factor in the starting lineup, and he does his work on a nightly basis, and keeps his head down and just does his job, does all the dirty work. But KJ is an absolute wrecking ball and force when he checks into the game. Knows how to leverage his athleticism, has just quietly put his head down, done the work, whether he gets 10 minutes off the bench or whether he starts and plays 40, KJ is ready to produce. And he is so good on both ends of the floor. He's bought in defensively. Stephen Silas was so complimentary of KJ Martin's development on the defensive side of the floor, and just how his awareness has gotten better as both a help defender, as an on-ball defender. Praised him for following the game plan, which the Rockets' defensive game plan was KJ Martin on Russ, and it was basically just back away from Russ and let Russ shoot. And hey, we've seen that defensive game plan before, and it works. So KJ Martin stuck to that, and it worked out really well, because when you back away from Russ like that, it puts KJ in position to be a primary, a primary rebounder, right? Because if you got Russ and you're just giving him 10 to 15 feet of space, if somebody else puts the shot up, then KJ Martin's in prime position to get rebounds consistently. And that worked really, really, really well in the Rockets' favor in this game. They wound up out-rebounding the Lakers just by a smidge, 50-48. But KJ, again, walking away with 11 rebounds in this game, was very active on the glass, in addition to Alperen Sengun, who again had one of those rebounds unfortunately wiped away from his total. But a couple more guys here as far as just how this game went. And it was nice to see Dennis Schroder back in the lineup. I know that over these past handful of games with Dennis Schroder out, a lot of Rockets fans have been, very excited about seeing, little glimpses of Daishen Nix and kind of what he may be able to provide for this Rockets team down the line. But like I said in the latest podcast, to me, it doesn't make sense to have Daishen Nix up here with the Rockets, especially if Dennis Schroder's back and healthy, just because, one, Daishen Nix is still learning, and I do think Dennis Schroder does provide an added element as far as just getting guys organized, getting guys in places to be successful, and really moving the basketball. Like, the main reason the Rockets were moving the ball so well tonight in this game was Alperen Sengun and Dennis Schroder. KPJ was facilitating and diming up guys left and right, yeah, but KPJ was doing that, sucking in the defense, creating for a guy, right? Like that kind of playmaking, facilitating. Whereas Dennis Schroder and Alperen Sengun consistently just make the right read, right? Skip pass to the next guy, right? That kind of thing. Or finding the mismatch and who has the, who the open man is, getting it to him, immediately, right? That kind of recognition, that game processing speed. And you really see that with Dennis Schroder. And Daishen Nix is good. He feels like a quality NBA level point guard, but I don't think his processing speed is quite to that point. And to see Dennis Schroder out there and have the level of success that he did, it was just kind of a quick reminder, hey, there's a reason the Rockets were optimistic about his ability to kind of just roll him into what they're doing and give him 15 to 20 minutes a night to kind of help stabilize that second unit. That's exactly what he did in this game. 12 points, 4 of 8 shooting, 3 of 4 from the charity stripe. He had 6 assists and just 1 turnover in his 23 minutes off the bench. And this was a revenge game for Dennis Schroder. Don't forget, right? Former Laker Dennis Schroder turned down all that money from LA. So this was absolutely a game where he wanted to show out and do his best, just like all the former Rockets wanted to show out and do their best against the Rockets in this game. There was, unfortunately, no DJ Augustine tribute video, much to my surprise. I thought we were going to get one, first or second timeout in the first quarter, and maybe that's why DJ Augustine went off against his former team, because he found out there was going to be no tribute video, and he said, all right, bet, I'm going off then. But it was good to see Dennis Schroder back in the rotation. And the last guy here, Eric Gordon, who was tasked with babysitting this ridiculously young starting lineup. Shout out to good friend of the show, Roosh Williams, who called it the fake ID lineup with Jalen Green, KJ Martin, Alperen Sengun, Josh Christopher can be thrown in there, right? All the youngsters who aren't even old enough to drink yet, right? The fake ID lineup. And Eric Gordon, the old man of the group, the old head, Uncle EG, tasked with kind of babysitting this lineup. First off, EG had what is absolutely going in his all-time Rockets highlight reel, had LeBron James on skates in the first quarter of this game, dribbled the ball up in transition, did a quick hezzy in and out dribble, and had LeBron, LeBron needed a map. He had LeBron James lost. LeBron was doing circles, just like, where did he go? Where did he go? It was a great way to kind of start this game off early and drain the three. It was one of those where it's like you get like a stat boost, like when you hit somebody with a move that filthy. Like, shout out to James Harden when he hit Wesley Johnson all those years ago, clean up on aisle 13 back in LA, that move, and then licked his chops before draining the three and kind of like looked at him, like slumped his shoulders, like, bro, you're not even going to get up. And it's those disgustingly filthy moves where you just get like a stat boost and you got to drain the three, right? Because then it becomes a highlight play. It's running around on Reddit right now. It's doing the rounds on social media. It's hilarious. But great move from EG. But my biggest thing from EG in this one is we've seen the Rockets throughout this entire season have a tendency in these really tight moments to overly rely on Eric Gordon. And I think this was kind of maybe not necessarily the true passing of the torch, but this was a big moment for Jalen Green. This game, right? To take this game over at the end of regulation in the fourth quarter, to put on the performance that he did on the way to his career night, 32 points. And Jalen demanded the basketball. He was the one, put the rock in his hands and see what he can make happen. And he made things happen. He made plays happen. And EG was more than comfortable just waiting off in the wings, spacing the floor out, being the guy to still hit a big shot in in that stretch. What was, at one point it was a 13-0 Rockets run, but then the KPJ 3 got waved off. So EG coming up with a big 3-pointer of his own in the overtime period. But right, it used to be earlier this season, we would see the Rockets kind of put the rock in EG's hand, and he would be the one to kind of create or bully ball his way to the rim for two and create that way and kind of be the safety valve for the Rockets. And he's still that safety net out there, right? He's still the release valve. Like, oh, we can't get something going. Let's just kick it to EG with, 8 seconds left on the shot clock, and maybe he can make something happen. But that's that, like, having all those opportunities earlier this season, and now to see the Rockets kind of shifting over to where the young guys are the ones finishing out the games, where you're seeing Jalen Green rise to the occasion, hit the big shots, get the big time buckets. You're seeing Al P come up big in these moments. You're seeing the team flourish itself defensively, right? A top 10 defense since the All-Star break. All of this happening, and it's so impressive to see it kind of culminating and growing together. And this is why I think when you look at this season as a whole, you absolutely have to give credit to Steven Silas where credit is due. Because if you had done this earlier this season and basically just, put the ball in Jalen Green's hands with the game on the line, yeah, there may have been some moments where Jalen could have come up big because he's just got a natural level of skill to him. But his game has grown so much from the earlier part of the season to where it is now. He's a completely different player now. And so he's had that time to learn and grow and adjust. and develop under the tutelage of the coaching staff of Eric Gordon, of DJ Augustine when he was here, now Dennis Schroder, right? Absorbing all of this knowledge, all of this wisdom from all of the bodies around him, player development coach, John Lucas, everybody, right? Just pouring into this kid. And now you're getting the glimpses of what is going to be a future superstar in the NBA. I'm calling it now. You can't look at a kid with this much raw talent and see him start to put it together this quickly and not think that he's going to be a future superstar. The Rockets were absolutely on the money with him as the number 2 overall pick. Look, I had some concerns earlier this season, but overall, my biggest thing was going to be like, no, he's got the work ethic. He's got the drive. He wants to be the best. After the game, when asked about what it was like going up against LeBron James, Jalen Green said, I want to be the best in the game. And to be the best, you have to go against the best. Like that mentality is so insane to think about. And he has all of that as a 20-year-old. To think about where his game, where that mentality is going to take him throughout his career, the sky is the limit for him. And I hope he has a long, impressive career with the Houston Rockets. And hopefully down the line, Alperen Sengun, Josh Christopher, that young core of Rockets players, KJ Martin involved in that mix as well. Hopefully they're going to be able to bring some titles to the city of Houston, because right now the future looks insanely bright for this Houston Rockets team. An incredible win against a just absolutely distraught LA Lakers team who has just continued to be in absolute shambles. Again, LeBron James running 45 minutes at age 37, putting up a triple-double. He did his thing, 23 points, 14 rebounds, 12 assists. Absolutely. LeBron had himself a night. Russell Westbrook, 30 points on 11 of 21 shooting. Had a solid night. The Rockets were the better team, though. The Rockets pulled out a win in overtime. An LA team that was at this point going into the game, they were 6-1 in overtime. So this was an LA team that had a clutch factor about it when they were able to force overtimes, and the Rockets came out on top. A big win for your Houston Rockets. I want to know what your favorite part of the game was. Let me know in the YouTube comments of the video. What was your favorite part of this game? Was it Jalen Green in the mid-range? Was it Al P making LeBron James, bully balling with LeBron James down low? Was it KJ Martin soaring in for that, ridiculously powerful one-handed yam at one point in the game? Was it Josh Christopher lighting it up off the bench? Let me know in the YouTube comments. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google, brand new Odyssey app, free and available on all platforms. Also, be sure to check out the show on YouTube. Like I just said, go to YouTube, search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all of that. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.